My name is Jocelyn, and I'm 28 years old. I work at a small advertising company just outside the city. From a young age, I learned how to take care of myself. I always tried my best in school, at work, and in life. But growing up, I never felt like I truly belonged in my family. My little sister Alexandra was always the favorite. No matter what she did, my mom would smile and forgive her. If Alexandra messed up, my mom would say, "She's just a child." But if I made a mistake, I was told, "Be patient. You're the older sister." I had to carry more responsibility while Alexandra was allowed to do whatever she wanted. Over time, that difference became harder and harder to ignore. Things got even worse after our dad died. The house felt emptier, and the gap between me and the rest of the family grew. My mom depended on Alexandra more than ever. Alexandra stayed home, smiled sweetly, and kept being treated like a princess. Meanwhile, I left college to help with the bills. I worked long hours and gave my paycheck to my mom. But even with all I did, I felt like I didn't matter. I'd come home and see them laughing together, like I wasn't even there. I felt like a stranger in my own house. It hurt deeply, but I stayed quiet, hoping things would someday change. At 25, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed space, so I moved into a small apartment near work. It was simple but peaceful. Living alone helped me heal. I started to focus on myself, and little by little, the sadness I carried began to lift. I stopped calling home as much. I needed time away from the pain, but I still visited sometimes. On those visits, things felt a little better. My mom and Alexandra were polite, but deep down, something still felt off. I still felt like I was standing outside a glass wall, watching them live a life that never included me. Then Thanksgiving came. I hadn't seen them in months, so I agreed to visit. My mom had cooked a nice meal, and the house smelled warm and familiar. Alexandra greeted me with a big smile. For a moment, it felt almost normal. But then, right in the middle of dinner, Alexandra looked at me and said, "I'm getting married next week." I froze. Next week? No one had told me anything. I looked at my mom, but she just smiled like it wasn't a big deal. My chest felt tight. I didn't know what to say. I felt like I was the last person in the world to know, and maybe that's how they wanted it. Trying to stay calm, I asked, "Why didn't you tell me before? We're family, aren't we?" Alexandra looked uncomfortable and said, "You've been so busy since you moved out." I didn't want to bother you. That made me feel worse. It wasn't about being busy. It was about being ignored. My mom quickly spoke up, saying, "There just wasn't a good time to tell you, Jocelyn. It couldn't be helped." That was her way of brushing it off. Again, I was the one expected to understand, to forgive. I didn't say much after that, but inside, something had cracked open. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts kept spinning. I wanted to feel happy for Alexandra, but I couldn't. I was hurt, left out, forgotten. I wondered if I should even go to the wedding, but in the end, I decided to attend. I told myself it was the right thing to do. Maybe I could find some peace, or at least some closure. But as soon as I walked into the venue, I knew something was wrong. The place was beautiful, lights, flowers, music, but I didn't feel welcome. At the reception desk, I searched for my name on the seating chart. It wasn't there. I asked a staff member for help. She looked confused, then finally said, "Oh, your seat is over here." She led me to a table in the far back corner, away from everyone. When I got there, I saw a small place card with my name on it. The card was bent and wrinkled, like someone had handled it carelessly. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. Then I saw something strange. The card didn't say guest or family. It said waitress. I blinked, thinking it was a mistake. But then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there was Alexandra in her wedding dress, smiling coldly. She looked beautiful, but her smile wasn't warm. "Do you like it?" she asked in a low voice. I stared at her, still holding the card. I couldn't speak. She leaned closer and whispered, "You're not really part of the family, Jocelyn. I thought Waitress suited you." I felt like the ground disappeared under me. Before I could respond, my mother walked up. She didn't even look at me. She only looked at Alexandra and said, "You look beautiful, sweetheart. Your mother is so proud of you." That moment hit me hard. I finally understood. I didn't matter to them. I never did. My voice was shaking as I asked, "What do you mean I'm not family?" Alexandra just shrugged and said, "You left. You stopped coming around. You chose to be distant." Her words were cold and they hurt. I had worked so hard to help them after Dad died. I gave everything. I didn't leave because I stopped caring. I left because I was being pushed away. I felt tears building, but I held them back. I refused to let them see me cry. I turned around and walked to a quiet corner of the room, trying to calm down. That's when I remembered something important. Months ago, my coworker Mandy had told me about Alexandra's engagement. She was actually friends with her. Mandy also mentioned something strange, that Alexandra had been seen with another man, not her fiancé. I didn't think much of it then. But after being humiliated at the wedding, I remembered that conversation. I pulled out my phone. On it, I had proof. Pictures. Audio. Mandy and I had been gathering information for a while. Alexandra had been cheating on her fiancé and using our mother's money without permission. She thought no one would ever find out. But now it was time they did. The host asked if anyone wanted to say a few words. My hands were still shaking, but I stood up. The room went quiet. I walked to the microphone and said, "Thank you for coming. I'm Jocelyn, Alexandra's sister. There's something you all need to know." I connected my phone to the projector. First, I showed pictures of Alexandra kissing another man. The guests gasped. Then I played an audio recording of her laughing about taking money from our mother's account. "It's fine," she said in the recording. "It's my mom's money, so I can use it." The whole room went silent. Alexandra's fiancé stood up, looking shocked and angry. "Is this true?" he shouted. Alexandra started crying, but she couldn't say a word. My mom looked pale, like she didn't know what to believe. The guests were whispering, confused and upset. I said nothing more. I just walked out of the room. Outside, I took a deep breath. I didn't feel happy. I felt tired. But I had finally told the truth. For once, I stood up for myself. I wasn't just the quiet older sister anymore. I was the person who had been pushed too far, and who finally pushed back. The next day, Alexandra called me. Her voice was full of anger. "Why did you do that? You ruined my wedding." I stayed calm and said, "No, Alexandra. You ruined it yourself." I just told the truth. She hung up without another word. I didn't expect anything else. A few days later, I returned home from a business trip. As soon as I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. My apartment had been trashed. Drawers were open, photo frames were broken, and my favorite painting lay shattered on the floor. My heart pounded. I called the police right away. While waiting for the police, I looked around carefully. I didn't touch anything, just tried to stay calm. Then I noticed something small on the living room floor. A silver charm. It was part of the bracelet Alexandra always wore. My hands started shaking again. Could she have done this? I didn't want to believe it, but the charm was right there. When the police arrived, they checked everything and reviewed the security footage from my building. There she was, clear as day, Alexandra, entering my apartment late at night. My chest went cold. It was true. She had broken in. I took the footage to my lawyer, George. He watched quietly and said, "This is serious. It's a crime. If there was anything stolen, we can press charges." I nodded. I was done letting her hurt me. We filed a formal complaint with the police. A few days later, Alexandra stormed into my office. Her heels echoed across the floor as everyone in the room stared at her. "How could you do this to me?" she yelled. I stood up and looked her in the eyes. "I didn't do anything wrong. You broke into my house. You crossed the line. Now it's up to the law." The court date came quickly. I stood in the witness box while the footage played on the screen. The whole courtroom saw Alexandra sneaking into my apartment. The judge listened to the facts and gave a verdict. Alexandra was guilty. She received a suspended sentence and had to pay damages. After the trial, Alexandra came up to me and said, "Are you happy now? You sued your own family." Her words didn't move me. She still didn't understand what she had done. I stayed silent. She left the courtroom angry, but I walked out with a deep breath. For the first time, I felt truly free.